Well, good day, folks, and welcome to another edition of Lumberjack Logic. I'm your host, Neil Johnson. Always excited to be with you. Always excited to share the news with you. Have a very special guest on today. I will introduce her in just a second. While you're coming in, please do smash that like, chat in with where you're from. Really does help increase the way this spreads out through the YouTube algorithm. So I thank you for that. Also, just want to quickly mention my sponsor, Midas Gold Group. It's MidasGoldGroup.com. I've actually, and that was a sponsorship that took me a while to set up because I had other gold companies that wanted to. I interviewed, talked to. These are veteran owners of the company. These are people who have served, and you're not talking to commissioned salespeople, but actually the owners when you call in. So just really love that company. That's MidasGoldGroup.com. If you tell them Neil sent you, you can get free silver with qualifying order. So without further ado, I want to bring in my special guest. Some of you have obviously seen her before. She's had numerous gigs in the past. So please welcome to Lumberjack Logic, Christina Bobb. Christina, good to have you on today.
Hey, thanks, Neil. I so appreciate coming back. It's nice to be back with you.
Yeah, no, it's I for those who don't know, I was actually on One America News Network with you. That was, I think, 2 years ago. We were talking about grassroots activism.
Yeah, you were one of the leaders of all of it. You were really digging in. I remember being really impressed with what you were finding. I thought I was good, and then you found some stuff. I was like, whoa, how did he find that? So, yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, well, Christina, why don't you just for the sake of those in my audience who may not know you, just give me your background. I mean, you worked in the DHS under Trump. You worked for Trump. You've been an anchor for One America News. So just tell me a little bit about you.
Yeah, it's a real conglomerate of a resume. I've done a lot of kind of random things, but I started my legal career in the United States Marine Corps. I was a judge advocate. I was a defense counsel. I defended Marines in court-martials and did a tour in Afghanistan, came back, practiced civil litigation for a while in San Diego for about 4 years. And I missed the national security aspect of the law. So I went back into the Marine Corps, trying to figure that out, and once that was done, ended up in Washington, D.C., where I worked for President Trump. I know, but it's unfortunate where the Trump administration was. So I went there so that I could work at DHS, at the Department of Homeland Security with Donald Trump. I worked under a handful of secretaries. It was Kirstjen Nielsen, Chad Wolf, Kevin McAleenan, those folks. I was the executive secretary there. And then I got a bug to try some media, and I was a TV show host and a correspondent with One America News. I did that and went all over the place. That's actually how I ended up kind of writing my book. I was traveling so much as an investigative reporter and talking to folks like you and digging into the 2020 election that I just got so much material. I ended up writing a book.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's
how long's that book been out now? And the book, by the way, folks, is titled "Stealing Your Vote," and I'll actually bring in a thumbnail of this. And what's interesting is I brought up an article, and it went perfectly with that, talking about Democrats failing upward in the election system. I find this to be so fascinating. When did that book come out?
Yeah, so it came out basically a year ago, January 2023. So it's not a new release, but I feel like it will be a very, very important book for this year, really, for what's happening in 2024. So I'd love it if folks want to check it out. I hope it's helpful and gives you some insight.
Yeah, and I'm going to add this to the stage first. I want to just talk briefly about this. We're going to get on to some of the things swirling around in Trump's legal world right now. Yeah. He just had another win in California yesterday on the ballot issue. That is, quite frankly, the craziest crap I've ever seen in my life. Okay, the funniest, Christina, and I mean, I don't know how closely you followed the whole Maine thing, because that's not a case you're involved in.
Yeah.
I don't believe. But,
no, I'm aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah, but did you see the document she put out? First, she rendered it as her decision, like she's a judge. Okay, and she put it out. I mean, it looks exactly like court papers. like the way she put up the header and everything.
Yeah, she tried to make it look official, but she's not official. And she cited to YouTube and she cited to media reports, which are not admissible in court. No, it was a ridiculous attempt to try to pull this off. I don't think she did it successfully. I think she's a laughingstock. I think she now recognizes that. I don't know if she told attorneys that she was good. I sincerely hope she did not get legal advice before she made that decision, because if an attorney told her it was okay to do that, that attorney, I think, has some problems. And then of course she kind of retracted and said, well, we're going to wait and see what the Supreme Court says. So Donald Trump's going to be on the ballot in Maine. He's going to be on the ballot. Like, so all of this it's all a show. It's all just a show. The Supreme Court's going to come down probably 9-0 in favor of keeping Donald Trump on the ballot, evidenced by all of these cases and all of these blue states, like you mentioned California, and then Michigan, Minnesota, New Hampshire.
Yeah,
like,
my state.
Yes, that's
one of the most liberal Supreme Courts in the nation.
Yeah, everybody knows Donald Trump is eligible to be on the ballot. There's no question. There's no possibility. I do not think Jack Smith will get a conviction, but even if he did, Donald Trump will still be on the ballot. It does not matter. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment does not apply to the president or the vice president, and that's clearly expressed in the statute. So, I'm sorry, not the statute, the amendment.
Do you know what's really a fun fact? Do you know who isn't going to be on the ballot, the primary ballot in New Hampshire?
Who?
Joe Biden.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. Which is so funny, because I think all of the shenanigans they're trying to pull, all of the crazy things they're doing are going to come back to bite them. Like, in so many ways, it's all going to turn around, and I think they're going to have some problems. So I think Donald Trump is going to be just fine. I think he's going to win in a landslide. We got to get him through January 6th. Yeah. They're making that one tough, but I expect him to get through it. And 2025 is going to be epic. Finally, we get our country back.
2024 is going to be epic. This is going to be a year like no other.
True. I just don't want to repeat 2024. I will probably want to repeat 2025. So yes, but that is true.
It's so bad. I should actually, I found out about the New Hampshire primary ballot issue with Joe Biden from one of my listeners who lives in New Hampshire, and he posted this comment. I'm going to just share this real quickly, though. Please do smash that like and just keep chatting. It really helps spread the stream. There's 533 of you on. I don't know how many likes because I don't have the YouTube piece pulled up. I just got the StreamYard piece, but please do smash that like. Really does help. We've got, by the way, I don't know. Do you know Brian Lupo, who goes by the handle CanCon?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I know of him. I think we've met once or twice, but I don't know him well.
You got to go on his show. He's another Marine.
Okay, I'd love to.
And we've got a number of Marines who, and I will, I'll make sure I'll get you his contact information.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Nobody has covered 2020 probably better than Brian. I mean,
awesome.
I just, he's fantastic. But this was it from On the Road 5317. He said, fun fact for you from New Hampshireite. Biden is not on the New Hampshire primary ballot. You can vote for Phillips or write in Biden. Long-winded reason below. New Hampshire has a state law that requires us to hold the first primary election in the country. The reason Iowa can vote before us is that they don't technically have a primary. They hold caucuses. By the way, people, if you are not going to your precinct caucuses, you're missing it. Honestly, you have got to get to those. If you want to affect change, if you want to get rid of Ronna Romney McDaniel, and the shenanigans there at the state party or the national party, you can't do it if you're not involved. You can't. It's just, you can't. Anyways, I have to go on here. Now, but this year, the DNC was concerned about Biden's popularity, so they scheduled South Carolina primary to be first so he would look good. New Hampshire said, nah, we're moving ours up to be first. DNC says that we don't recognize your primary as official. New Hampshire says, cool, we'll still do what we want to when we want to do it, but you can have JoJo's name on it. You can't have JoJo's name on it if you don't sanction it. So now there's all kinds of TV ads and internet ads in New Hampshire telling them to write in Biden. He could very well lose the primary in New Hampshire because of their stupidity. It's
Well, isn't that so telling? Like, it's a metaphor for what's happening to our country. We're losing our country because of their stupidity.
Oh yeah,
I mean, you see how much Donald Trump is focusing on Iowa, right? I mean, he's focusing on New Hampshire and South Carolina, Nevada, all the early states, but he's been really focusing on Iowa because it's the first caucus, right? It's the first thing, the first primary event that happens in the nation, and he knows he needs to win it, and he needs to win it decisively, and he's going to. I'm confident that he's going to, but he has been hitting that home. For Joe Biden and his campaign team to forget, or I don't even know if they forgot, like, I don't know what the heck happened, but for their inability to get him on the ballot in New Hampshire. I mean, you want to vote for this guy? But it also it leads you to think, does he just think the election's so rigged he doesn't need to be on the ballot? They're going to come up with millions of write-ins for Joe Biden, 81 million write-ins for Joe Biden.
I just find their hubris to be their downfall. I follow Mark Elias on Twitter, not because I like him, but because he's actually, you can learn so much about their line of thinking if you follow Mark Elias. And his standard line now, and he's doing this all over the place, is Republicans want to make it easier to cheat and harder to vote. Now, obviously, on its head, that's just stupid. Like, voter ID does not make it easier for anybody to cheat. Okay, but
yeah, of course,
it's nonetheless, he runs that, and they run it on CNN, MSNBC, because they always interview Mark Elias. He's on every day now lately. I mean, he is like freaking out. So if you want to actually assign a hope, so one of the things that actually gives me hope about the upcoming election is watching how bad they're freaking out.
Yes, that is a very good sign for us. It's annoying because we have to deal with the messes they're making, but it's a very good sign that they know they don't have this election. But but I have to say, that doesn't mean we can sit back. We absolutely have to be involved. Every single person listening to this needs to be volunteering or working at your county. Give an hour a week, an hour a month, whatever you can to help scrub voter rolls, to canvass your neighborhoods, to clean up your precinct and to clean up your county. Every single one of us needs to be doing something to make 2024 more secure than 2020.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I did, and I actually encouraged my audience to do, was to become election judges or poll watchers. So I was actually an election judge up here in Hibbing, Minnesota. And that is one of the things that frustrates me about news in general. Oh my gosh, 666 people on. Smash the like. Let's get some more people on quick. It's a bad number. But the regular news, I hear a lot of talking heads complain, but they're not calling on anybody to do anything. So what it does is it just creates a vacuum of complaints without action.
Yeah. Well, the hard part about normal media, mainstream media, corporate media structure, and I do a lot of it. I comment on, corporate media regularly, multiple times a week at least. And the hard part about it is we have become so conditioned to have really fast news cycles, right? And that's why I asked you before I started, how much time do we have? Because how much time do I have to spit my answers out before you cut and go on to the next thing? With how fast the news cycles are, we've lost that. We've lost facts. We've lost the ability to really, truly receive the information, because where before in an hour, they may have covered one or two topics in an hour. Now they're covering 15. And so you only get the very top. If the networks are giving it to you, you only get the very top of the story, and you don't really understand what's going on. And I say that as someone who speaks on the news. Often I only have 3 minutes to tell you, well, what's going to happen in the Supreme Court. Okay, it takes longer than 3 minutes to explain, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do know what you mean, because I mean, even in the process of me making videos, I can make 4-minute videos and those will get exponentially more views, but you can't really, I find it hard to get into the meat, the substance of an issue. I can simply inform people But that's why I love this type of format, doing live streams, having it a little more open-ended. And I think I typically get a little bit more, the audience that watches these, and I have a really good core audience, are more interested in action and actionable items. And as a whole, they're a little more intelligent and are not just like, no, I just need something new. It's a lot of times we could go back, I believe, and just look at old news again, and it's just as relevant today, probably more relevant than some of the things that people are all hyped up about.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And I think because of the kind of circular, the situation that we're in with the news cycle and where we're at currently in 2024, these longer forums are so important because you're not getting them on the easily accessible, cable news networks. And I'm not necessarily even knocking the cable news networks because there probably is a place for it. It just shouldn't be the biggest place, right? There should be a place where, and there is, but there should be places where people can, if people really want to know the information, they want to know what's going on, that they can access it. So I love these podcasts, yours, and I love the idea that thousands of people are now podcasting because not all of them are good. But it's easier for people who have information to put it out.
Well, the decentralization of everything is what needs to occur.
And that is what's happening, right? Tucker goes and he leaves Fox and goes and starts his, and that's pulling away, and this podcasts are pulling away. And, it's a decentralization of the media. We need decentralization of a lot of aspects of our culture.
Oh yeah. No, it's I have determined in life, it doesn't matter what it is. It can be big church, big nonprofit. It can be big medicine, big education, big government. All of it tends to perversion. And I'm not talking about, like we see the sexual perversion going on right out there. But I'm talking about it just becomes perverted. It becomes dysfunctional. It becomes not what it was intended to be. That's what perversion means. And everything that gets too big becomes like that. That's why I love what Javier Milei is doing down in Argentina. He is like whacking the size of the government like nobody's business.
It's awesome.
Oh gosh, that's what I want to see happen here in the worst way.
It needs to happen here. It needs to happen in Brazil. It needs to happen. We need a cleansing of this authoritarian trend we're seeing across the world.
Well, and that all goes back to, globalists, Klaus Schwab, George Soros, and so on. It's people. I don't think a lot of people fully understand. I think my audience obviously is probably pretty attuned to it just because we're talking about this stuff all the time. But so many, I was at the club again the other day, and I always encourage people. I think one of the best things, and tell me if you agree with this, Christina, I think one of the best things people can do for action is just to daily ask questions of the people they meet and are around, in the grocery store, in the health club, wherever you are, asking questions that cause people to think, are you better off now than you were under Trump? Things like that. Do you know who Klaus Schwab is? No? Oh, well, let me tell you. And, these are things that just...
You're an extrovert, Neil. When you say that, I freeze up. I'm like, I'm never talking to anybody in the grocery store. I don't do that. But if your viewers do that, go for it. And I'm not saying don't. I don't have that in me. But I love it. I think it's great.
You can do it, Christina.
I will never do it, Neil.
I'll take you through my extrovert training program.
Nope. I'm an introvert. I love being an introvert, and I'm not changing anytime soon.
Yet here you are doing interviews all over.
I know. It takes me out of my comfort zone.
That's good. Comfort zones are failure zone, they always said. Let me ask you this question. And you, I know, you just answer what you can because I know kind of the way the legal world works in this. And, you went under some DOJ scrutiny, but you were there actually the day that the raid took place on Mar-a-Lago.
Yep.
So you were present. You got this. Can you just give us like a mental picture of what went down that day?
Yeah. it's like the movies, right? I'm not trying to be cliche, but it really was. The FBI got there before I did. I was informed that the FBI had shown up, and I was the only attorney living in the area. Lindsay Halligan joined later. She was coming down from, I think it was Boca Raton. I don't know. She lives further, so Fort Lauderdale maybe. And she drove up, so she joined me later in the afternoon. But I lived the closest, so I showed up, and it's like what you'd see in the movies. They had a bunch of black SUVs and a big moving van to store all the stuff. And I didn't see a lot of agents. It was a Secret Service officer that I ran into first, who I know. And I was like, what, what's going on? And so he took me over to where the agents were. Where there were two agents. We had an exchange, and I saw the agents in pieces as they were going in and out. There were, I want to say a couple dozen. I don't remember exactly. I'd have to go back and look at what I said at that time because I don't totally remember, but I want to say about 30. Yeah, and all at different times though. But they didn't let me in. I couldn't see, I couldn't see what was going on inside because they made me stand in the parking lot.
It's just, it's all so unbelievable to me. I mean, we're talking about a president of the United States of America. Now, I'm not saying that people are above the law. That's not my point in all of this. But it's a very drastic move to actually.
Yeah. Yes.
Next
Especially
level.
Because, we'd been cooperative. For everything I know, I was not the attorney on the case. I was the attorney on site at that time, but the case was actually being handled out of Washington, D.C., which that whole thing is weird. I thought it was weird at the time, but I didn't, it was like one of those subconscious things. I was like, why is this case being handled in Washington, D.C. when everything about it takes place in Florida? And I was like, oh, there must be something about it that I don't know because I'm not working it or whatever. Come to find out, it's a Florida case, and they had to assemble a new grand jury, and they moved it down to Florida. But everything was, the raid, all of it was orchestrated out of Washington, D.C. Of course, my understanding is they had the Florida office, the FBI and DOJ participating and coordinating and all that. But it was certainly orchestrated out of Washington, D.C.
You may not have heard this because this just broke yesterday, but the guy who heads up CREW, Noah Bookbinder, it has just been discovered was on an advisory task force for the Department of Homeland Security while he was pressing the case in Colorado to keep Trump off the ballot. This just broke yesterday. Oh, wow. And it's not surprising.
Yeah.
We're talking about somebody actually, they're working in concert together.
They are. They're working. And it's so blatant out in the open. I mean, yes, they are.
That's illegal, near as I can tell.
It's unconstitutional. I mean, the government, if he is like somehow, not employed, but if he's somehow contracting with the government and doing what he's doing in some sort of collaborative agreement with the government, that's a problem.
I did a video on it, so I don't have the thing up in front of me right now, but Noah Bookbinder of CREW, and then what's really funny to me is both in all these cases, it's Republicans bringing these suits. Shut up. They're not Republicans. They're fake Republicans. They're about as Republican as Mitch McConnell is a Republican right now. Well, even worse, because Mitch McConnell wouldn't even do that.
You know what I'm enjoying about what's happening to our nation right now and to all of us is I feel like the truth has been buried for so long and it's surfacing. We all kind of ignored the truth, or like the narratives that were told us. We all knew they weren't really true, but they weren't so outlandish lies that anybody cared, right? Everybody just kind of went on with their business doing their own thing. But the lies are so blatant and so terrible that people are pushing back. And the MAGA movement is the best example, saying, standing up and saying, we don't care if you're a Republican. We're not going to vote for you just because you're a Republican. You have to actually have conservative values. And the ability and willingness for these establishment swamp creatures to blatantly lie just to try to get office when everything they're promising and everything they're saying is a complete lie. It's astounding. We all knew that politicians lied, but I think we all know it more, know it better now.
Yes, I think Madison Cawthorn told us something, a couple of years ago, and then now, of course, we had three scandals in 1 week. We had devious acts in the Senate hearing room, and it's like, wow, maybe Madison Cawthorn is,
Yes,
really
isn't
clued us
that
into
funny?
something.
He had a really good "I told you so" moment. Like, I
He
told
did.
you so. He did. That
He
was,
did.
I was happy
I
for him. I
told
was like, yeah, he got to stick that one.
Oh, again, smash that like, folks. Really does help get the stream out. Thanks so much for all of you being on. I want to, in relation to the documents case, right? You've got Mike Pence and Joe Biden all within the same. Actually, my most popular video of all time was it got 1.5 million views, and it was about Karine Jean-Pierre. And it was while she was being interviewed or while she was at a White House press briefing. And it was when the documents thing came out about Biden and the whole investigation. It was beautiful. It was the best presser ever. She was backpedaling the whole time. But here we have somebody, Joe Biden obviously was not president. He was only vice president. And actually, some of those documents dated back from when he was in the Senate.
Yep.
And then you had Mike Pence, and wow, they've got documents. I mean, sitting in the garage by the Corvette, sitting at the UPenn Center, the Biden Center at UPenn, with Chinese people. The whole thing is nuts. And yet, I think everybody, when you talk about the truth being exposed, if you can't see that this is a two-tier justice system right now, if you can't see that there is a legitimate attempt to grab power from the American people and centralize it amongst one-worlders, you're like asleep at the wheel at this point.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're asleep at the wheel or complicit. I mean, and why? That's what I don't understand is why so many Americans are complicit. I mean, it's just easier to go along with the more aggressive party, right? We're just gonna, and the thing that the Democrats did that was so crafty, and I specifically mean Democrats, not the swamp Democrats. What they did and the messaging that they've been, pounding for a couple decades now is subtly saying, if you're a Democrat, you're morally superior. You have better ethics. You're a better person. You're more likable. They subtly slipped that in. And so everybody wanted to be a Democrat. Right? Well, I'm a Democrat. I care about humanity. I care about the environment. I'm a social giver. I care about social justice, all this stuff. Well, they say all that stuff, but their policies are terrible. Their policies don't accomplish what they have led their followers to believe they're doing. So it's been a really crafty, subtle, little. I think people recognize it now. Being a Democrat does not make you a better person when you want to genitally mutilate children. You want to make pedophilia normal. When you want to leave the border open and allow people to be brutalized for thousands of miles on their trek. You want to allow cartels to traffic children, which the Health and Human Services Department, in some ways conjunction with DHS, is complicit in. I mean, we had that congressional testimony about how Health and Human Services is allowing minor trafficking. They've lost about 100,000 kids. And this was a few years ago. It wasn't recent. It wasn't yesterday. So that number may have gone up. They're losing children because they're all getting trafficked.
I thought it was another 85,000 this last year. I think.
Oh, was it?
So, yeah. This is.
They're losing children.
Do you know? I mean, I remember. It's just even just 4 years ago, I thought some of this stuff was so outlandish that it couldn't be true.
Yeah.
But it's
crazy conspiracy theorists, tinfoil hat wearers. Yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't. I mean, my mind can't get there. I'm like, what with kids and what, and it doesn't make sense. And I can understand the whole idea, people want money and power, even though I don't really want all that, because it's I have a tough enough time managing my life as it is. But I don't know. It blows my mind still. I know I I should just know and accept that it's going on. But I've watched some videos recently, most alarming stuff, and it's not like this just started yesterday either.
No, it's been planned for a while.
So, I've got a couple other questions here. I want to get to in the chat. I want you to answer, those of you out there. I mean, when did you wake up? Just put how many years ago you woke up to all that's going on, and you're going to find something, because I voted for George Bush. I actually campaigned for George Bush. I've got a picture. One of my last pictures with my dad is me and my two young boys going out hunting, and I had a Bush Cheney hat on. And now I just think these people are terrible. So, I mean, it's just changed so much, but I want to know when you guys woke up. So look at the answers there. 2016, 3.5 years, 2016, 2010, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
See,
that's great. I love the 4 years ago, because it means people got it after the 2020 election. I love that answer.
Yes. I think I really started getting it during the Obama years, in terms of the division that they were trying to cause.
Yeah.
I was getting that. It was kind of a gradual waking up for me.
It was hard to see. Like, I didn't like that either. I saw it and I was like, that's not right. What are we doing? But I wasn't like, I wouldn't say I was conscious. I didn't work in government. I was in the military, but I didn't work in politics, I should say. And it just wasn't something that was a daily issue for me until I joined the Trump administration in 2017 or I think it was 2017. And when I joined the Trump administration, I was like, whoa, like I saw the battle, and I was at DHS and we were trying to build the wall, and just the crazy opposition to the wall. I was like, what is going on? So that was my moment.
Doesn't that seem like something so simple? Like we would build a wall, and then, now we're watching our border patrol cutting the wire and watching them cut sections of the wall out so that more people can come across.
Yeah, it's terrible. And I apologize. As you were thinking, I was just reminded of, do you remember when AOC went to the border and was like, they're making kids drink out of toilets? Do you remember that?
I do.
Well, and it was so funny about that. And I actually really related to her on a human level. I kind of felt bad, but she's such an awful person, and what she was trying to do was so awful. What they were saying, because she didn't speak, apparently her Spanish isn't good enough. And I heard the officer, I'm sure you all saw the clip where the officer was like, she asked me where they get water. And I said, the bathroom, that's where the sink is. Go in the bathroom and get water. And she interpreted bathroom as toilet.
She's not
she missed some Spanish classes.
She's not the brightest bulb, that woman.
That's why they chose her. They don't pick the bright ones.
No. Do you know, though? Okay, this is an aside, but now you've got me up on something that's so funny.
Sorry, let's go down the side roads.
Yes. Who do you think the dumbest person in the United States Senate is?
Oh, I think I know where you're going. And I love this track. I would have said John Fetterman, because he's got all the clear.
He's got mega. Some of
John Fetterman. I would never in a million years, if you had said who's going to be the most MAGA Democrat senator, I would never have guessed John Fetterman. But like, he's been coming out with stuff that I'm like, he's right. I agree with John Fetterman. Oh my gosh, he's supporting Israel. Like
the steel issue, like the steel company and everything.
Yeah.
I thought the funniest thing was when he went waving his Israeli flag out.
Yeah, that was my favorite. I was like,
because
okay.
If Republicans actually had the courage to do that kind of stuff, but instead they're like, oh no, what's the media going to say about me? The Democrats will not like me, and so on.
Yep.
But I actually think the dumbest person in the United States Senate is Mazie Hirono.
Tell me.
I've never seen anybody who says dumber things than her. Do you remember the quote where she was out there? She's going, I was recently at a Democrat retreat, and they were telling us, look, you need to tell people how smart Democrats are, because they don't know how smart we are.
I did not hear that.
There's a video.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's what's so funny is that's why okay. If you're going to commit bank fraud or check fraud, let's say check fraud, you don't write, like if I steal someone else's checkbook and want to write a fake check to myself, I don't sign my own name, right? Like you don't put your own name on it. So the people who are doing this find dummies, pun intended, to be the office holders. And then they just pull the strings and they stay hidden behind the screens and all that stuff. So it's no surprise that the Democrats are all dummies. They're just pegs in the hole so that the swamp can continue doing what they're doing. So that's why people don't think Democrats are smart.
Okay, now see, all my questions are going out the window because now I've got another question for you because you've been around this. You were out there in DC, in the swamp, and you got to see these people. But I have a theory, and I want to ask you about this. So, like everybody thinks, Neil, you don't understand. We're going to lose because I hate this kind of commentary, right? Where people are like, no, you don't understand. They're just going to steal it again, or they're just going to this.
Those are lazy people.
They're in control of everything. You just don't understand. I mean, Klaus has got the world in his finger, and they're all working together, and you can't do anything. We're just losing the country, and that's all there is to it. Okay, here's what I actually think is going on. Yes. It's Klaus Schwab and George Soros and the Rothschilds and all these people in collusion with each other on a grand scale. Yes. Do I think they have that much individual control over everybody? No. I actually think that the grand master planner of all of this is quite frankly Satan himself. And I don't know where you fall on that, but that's honestly where I'm at with it all. And what he does is he uses people who are weak in their convictions. Okay. And so I don't actually think that all this is quite as coordinated, other than it's a coordination of what's the word I'm looking for?
They're falling for the propaganda. You're right.
They're evil idiots.
Yes.
They actually think that they're in the right. I think that like a lot of these politicians even, I think a lot of, like an AOC.
Well, the politicians are idiots. We were just talking about that. They do. They believe they're morally superior. They believe that they're not just they are morally superior, their viewpoints are morally superior. If you don't agree with my views, then it is ethically okay. It is morally okay for me to hate you and ruin your life.
Yes. Well, you have to understand. I mean, think about this, right? Go back. If you were in Nazi Germany and Hitler was rising to power and you could have stopped him, you would have used whatever means necessary. This is like what people would do, because they're like, oh my gosh, he's going to kill, millions and millions of Jews and all this kind of stuff. But this is how Democrats think. Like they actually think that they're so wrapped around the axle and they think they're morally superior because they've been fed that line, and they're in these colleges, where plagiarism isn't plagiarism anymore. By the way, that's just. Did you see that thing on CNN with Clark?
Oh, because of the Harvard.
Yes, but she didn't really. It was the funniest thing. It was like it reminded me of the riots where they're mostly peaceful protests while the building's burning behind them.
Yeah.
The guy on CNN's going, it should be pointed out that Claudine Gay really didn't plagiarize. What she did was just took other people's writings and didn't give proper attribution.
That's the definition of plagiarism. Yeah. You know what's funny about that CNN clip? Because I've been a correspondent like that. And I always thought, well, if you wanted to say they were mostly peaceful, why did you have the camera pointed at the fire? Like, because I've been in those situations where you're reporting on a story and you want to get the shot and you want to be standing in front of the shot. If that's not the shot they wanted, if they wanted to pretend they were peaceful, one, can you turn the camera so the fire is not in there? Or if they turned the camera, was everything else worse? You know what I mean? Like, was that the most peaceful shot you could get in that moment? I don't know. I wasn't in Kenosha at that time, but I just, as a journalist, I look at that and go, why did they report? It's bad that he reported it, but it's worse that he reported it in front of a massive fire.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Turn the camera.
But
don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting to manipulate stories. I'm an honest was an honest journalist. My point is just like, why did you do that? Because maybe, well, I don't know. The cameraman actually did his job. The job of the cameraman is to
capture the scene.
The cameraman did his job. It should have been the reporter, because the cameraman doesn't know what the reporter's going to say. So the reporter should have said, "Hey, I don't want this in the background." But the reporter didn't do that.
I was talking with you briefly about this just before we jumped on, but out of your home state of Arizona, here we have convicted ballot harvester Gloria Torres named San Luis vice mayor.
Mayor of what?
Mayor of San Luis.
Oh, of San Luis.
Yeah. So, and you need to understand, she is actually convicted. Like, she went to court and she is convicted, and Democrats fail upward. It's a beautiful thing, right? You can be a Democrat, go out and get convicted of a crime, and now you are more qualified. This is why, so for those who just jumped on, we talked briefly at the beginning. You wrote a book here about a year ago, and it's called Stealing Your Vote. And, this is interesting. I think I wanted to bring this in because, it's your home state. And, I know you love Arizona, because we all love our home state. We love the land. We love the people. We don't necessarily love the government, but again, look at this. Torres, and these others were indicted in October 2022 on 2 Class 6 felonies of conspiracy and ballot abuse stemming from a 2-year-long investigation by the Arizona Attorney General's office. Okay.
Yeah, that was the case I was actually mad at, because that was the only person Brnovich, I believe this is the Brnovich case. That was the only person Brnovich actually prosecuted. I was so annoyed, because I was like, she's a peon. She's the nobody that took the fall and was now given vice mayor, apparently. That's where
if he would have gone after Katie Hobbs, she'd probably be president right now. So there's that. Because they fail upward. It's
unreal.
I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know what to do, honestly, but laugh sometimes. And people, look, if you're out there and you're thinking, man, the world's gone mad and it's insane and you're frustrated, okay, step back, mock them, laugh, and get involved. You have got to get involved locally.
That is the solution.
It is, because you're looking at national problems, big problems, and you're like, we need a big solution. And the problem is you can't affect that big solution as much, but you can affect change on a small level. And that's where you need to focus, because everything trickles up. Democrats started, this is back probably 20 years ago now. I read an article, and they were grooming people. Okay, not children this time, but grooming people for office. Okay, and they were starting at city councils, mayors, county commissioners, and that is who is now sitting out there in the halls of the United States Congress. And so, if you have a desire to change, and if you don't want to be in office, I get that. Okay, but find someone that you can actually support. Sit down with them, take them out for coffee. Do you know that you can call your state representative right now, book coffee with them, and within a week or two, you can be sitting down asking them direct questions?
Yep. A lot of people think that public office holders are so busy, they're bombarded with phone calls and emails. No, I mean, sometimes, yes, but on a normal day, absent some breaking news,
especially in session, they get busy. But outside of session,
exactly.
all the time, they're like.
And I'm specifically talking about state legislatures, like whether they're representatives or Senate. That's who you want to be talking to, or your county clerks, or your county supervisors. Those are the people who control how your election is actually run, the actual execution of how the election occurs. Figure out, like, are they good people? Do they share? If they're Republicans, I hate that we have to do this, but if they're Republicans, do they have conservative values? Figure that out. And going to coffee and all that stuff is great, but even if you can't do that, just call. Just call them.
I even spoke to my Democrat rep, who was just a rabid leftist. Okay, but I met her. I went down to the state capitol and met her. And I, at least wanted her to know who I was. I am her constituent, whether I voted for her or not, whether I agree with her or not. I still wanted to be able to, address her.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to these documents really quick. We talked about Pence and Biden. This whole DOJ investigation surrounding this, but there's the Espionage Act, and that is one of the things that they're trying to that they've tried to foist upon Trump. Correct? Is my understanding?
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to do a lot of things with Donald Trump. Yeah.
Yes.
Are you talking about in the documents case?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
yeah, they're saying, yeah.
Walk us, Christina, because I think there's a lot of confusion around this. So there's NARA, okay,
Yeah.
National Archives, and the president has the ability to classify, declassify documents.
Yeah.
All of this. So can you just kind of give the audience, a cursory overview of what this involves, NARA, declassing, and why they're going down the wrong road here?
Yeah. So yes, the president can classify and declassify. He declassified several of the documents, and I'm not on this case. I don't
Yes.
have the inside information. So I'm just speaking generically and from what we've seen in the public. The president has said that he declassified at least some, maybe all. I don't know the details of that. Before leaving office, which he has the ability to do. All he has to do is decide that they're declassified. He doesn't report to anybody. He just makes that decision. So there's that. The other piece is, even if he didn't do that, whether he did or not, that's something for the attorneys to figure out, actually. But it almost doesn't matter, because even if he did not declassify anything, there is statute called the Presidential Records Act that says it is the president and only the president who decides what he takes with him when he leaves office. And nobody has authority to tell him that he was required to return information. Now, the case that interprets this law, there's the one case, Judicial Watch versus NARA, the National Archives and Records Administration. That Judicial Watch case was a case during Obama's reign as presidency, during his term.
Reign of terror.
Sorry, forgive my sarcasm. During Obama's term, Judicial Watch brought a case against NARA because they wanted access to classified materials from Bill Clinton that Bill Clinton personally had in his possession, that Bill Clinton took with him. And Judicial Watch was claiming that he's not allowed to take classified information and that the classified information needs to be returned to NARA. It was an Obama-appointed judge who heard that case. It was decided in 2012. And that judge said, interpreting the Presidential Records Act, it is the president and only the president who gets to make the decision what he keeps and what he has to return. Whether it's classified or not, it doesn't matter. And actually, the judge goes further to say, not even the archivist at NARA, not even the archivist can tell the president what he needs to return. Well, Jack Smith's entire case is based on the archivist saying, no, Donald Trump needed to return those documents. Not according to the statute and the only case law that interpreted that statute. No. So I think that case is going to be a big fat nothing.
I am really excited to see if Jack Smith, now that Meese has filed that amicus brief to the court, I want to see the ruling on that, where Jack Smith is ruled a fraud, and all of the cases then would be gone.
Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great? I hope the Supreme Court has the backbone to do that. But this is one of those cases. This is really interesting because the Supreme Court, I believe, should do that. I thought Meese's brief was very thorough, saying Jack Smith is illegally appointed. There's no statutory authority that gives Merrick Garland the ability to take a civilian and endow him with the powers of the federal government in order for the purpose of prosecuting the president of the United States. He goes into great detail explaining the case history on that. So to your point, yes, that would cause both of Jack Smith's cases to basically dissolve. So I think that is the right ruling. that is a bold move. It's the truth. But as we've seen a pandemic of cowardice in our judiciary, not just at the Supreme Court, I'm not blaming the Supreme Court on this. I'm talking about judges across the nation who have been scared to rule on anything controversial, which in and of itself is a problem. But I'll be curious to see if the Supreme Court has the oomph to actually follow the law on that, because that's a big ruling.
It is a big ruling. Well, there's, look, there's a lot of rulings that are big rulings, but they're right rulings. And I think one of the things is that we have a Supreme Court that's so worried about looking political that they have become the essence of what they don't want to look like, which is
they're puppets. They look like puppets. Well, and this is my thing, and I'm not solely referring to the Supreme Court. I'm, talking
Christina,
about.
I've gone over on your time, so you just tell me if you need to go. I don't want to. I mean, but the conversation is interesting. I've just continued. So.
Oh, okay. I don't have a clock. I can't see the time, so I'll just finish this point and then I'll jump off. But the judiciary is so many. We've seen this across in several states. They're scared to say no to Democrats. They're scared to say no to the establishment that might bully them, slander them in the media, maybe, challenge their, because in state courts anyway, they have to get reelected. And then, the federal judges don't want anyone challenging their reputation. And truly really thus far, only the left, until Donald Trump, only the left was doing that. So it's easier to cater to the left. And so when there's a decision that very clearly needs to go to the right, and it's going to send the left in a spin, they don't want to do it. And the part that's so annoying about that and so wrong is, then why are you on the bench? The whole purpose of you being a judge and getting the honor of being called your honor and being respected in society and being respected in your sphere of influence is because you make the hard decisions. No one's proud of you and says, "Oh, Your Honor, thank you," because you
won't hear something. You say, "Oh my gosh, latches," or
or no, not even that. I'm just saying nobody cares if you make the easy decisions. If you make a good call, if someone throws a strike and it's clearly a strike and nobody questions that it's a strike and you call it, great.
Yes.
So where you earn the title Your Honor is when you call the balls and strikes correctly when it's very hard to tell the difference. Yes. That's what our judges need to do, and that's what they're afraid of doing. And if they're afraid of doing it, they need to get off the bench.
Yes. So like say this is the right here, we'll just go like this, right? But it's always backwards in StreamYard. But if this is, your square and it's coming right here, right there, in the lower, right corner, and you're just inside, you need to call that a strike. And
they don't want to do it.
And that's where it gets difficult. So, I real quickly, I just want to mention, folks, Midas Gold Group, MidasGoldGroup.com. You can text Lumberjack to 232-425 to receive free silver with qualified order, or call 480-360-3000. I've been very appreciative of them, especially with all the demonetization and other garbage I put up with YouTube. I still love this platform. It is the most technologically advanced platform. That's why I like using it, but it certainly has its own set of challenges. Again, it's veteran owners that you can talk to over there. Do you know, Christina, before I let you go, this is kind of, you might not even know the answer to this, but do you know how many current cases are being litigated? And actually, this is a three-part question. One is, how many current cases are being litigated? Because that means almost every state has got some ballot thing.
So the short answer is no, I don't. But do you mean like on behalf of Donald Trump? Or
yes. Yeah. It's a lot.
I want to say specifically about the ballot issue.
Well, just ballot, and then you've got Jack Smith twice. You've got.
I have no idea. There's a lot.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
How many?
I don't know.
So
for the ballot issue, the ballot issue is probably the biggest in the sense that there's so many of them.
Yes.
And for that, I want to say there's like 25, and then you've got the 4 indictments, and then there's a lot of cases for Donald Trump that I'm not even aware of.
Yes.
There are so many legal teams defending him. I don't know what everybody's doing, but
That was my
it's a
next
lot.
question is how many attorneys does he have working for him?
I don't even know the answer to that, to be honest. I don't know. There's a lot. So
How does he keep his attitude up through all
he's
this?
amazing.
Honestly,
really
I mean, the guy gets out and he does a rally, and you would think, listening to him, that nothing's going wrong. And
yeah.
most people would absolutely wilt under this kind of persecution.
He's incredible. I mean, he's built for it. He's absolutely built for it. So
it's amazing. I just he definitely is a transformative figure. I mean, it's I think people look at things that they disagree with. I haven't agreed with Trump on everything. I didn't like the stimulus bills because I don't like debt. But that all being said, people think, well, once you're in the job, it's a lot different. I've always known that, so when some people will complain, like if you're working at a company and there's the CEO, people will complain about the CEO's decisions. But the fact is the CEO is willing to make those decisions. And most people aren't. And there was one time I was consulting. I actually had to take over a company and run it as president to turn it around. And I'll never forget, the graphic designer came up to me one day because it was a media publication and there was something going to press and decisions had to be made. And the owner who had brought me in, and she said, Neil, can you just tell me what to do here? I just need a decision, because I had talked to the owner. I won't say his name, but he just doesn't. And I said, you're going to do X, Y, and Z. And she just looked at me and goes, thank you. Thank you. And and it's just, even if the decision is wrong, which sometimes we're all going to make wrong decisions, you've got to be willing to make a decision. And that's what most people aren't willing to do because they fear the liability of decisions.
Yeah.
And that's something to never forget. But Christina, I really want to thank you for coming on today. I really enjoyed this. You're just natural in talking about this stuff. I went over on time, but I just really enjoyed talking to you. So thank you. I'd love to do this again sometime in the future. And for my audience, I'd like you all just to give a hand clap in the chat for Christina and thank her for coming on. I know I was watching the comments and you probably saw a lot of those potentially too, Christina. I don't know if you saw some of those.
I can't see them. Sorry, my playback screen's over here and it's like way in the corner, so I can't see. I'm looking into a camera.
Well,
so
the audience, has been very positive.
Great.
A lot of them watched you on One American News Network and so on. So,
well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. I'm so grateful.
Yeah. So, everybody, thanks for joining us, and we will see you on the next episode of Lumberjack Logic. And remember, subscribe if you are new to the channel, and smash that like on your way out.